Everyone to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, as always, joined by Joe Resinello. And once more, dear brothers and sisters, let us go into the breach. Remember, you're seeing us if you're if you're watching us on Rumble, Real Truth News. Please, share, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Facebook, YouTube, X. Do the same. Help us out if you like these conversations that Joe and I are having. Then please, we'd like to get them out to a wider audience, of course. And we're very grateful for all of your support. Tonight's going to be a really good conversation. We got a few video clips to play you. The first thing we want to do is we want to talk about Danielle Smith, okay? And we want to talk about Canada because she's got stones, okay? And I think also we're going to get into it. I also think she's shrewd. All right, so we're going to spend a little time on Danielle Smith, and MSNBC is always up to their same nonsense, okay? So anytime the Supreme Court gives a ruling that they don't like, then, of course, it's a threat to democracy, and the judges are acting as politicians, and we're going to hash that all out. And then at the end of the day, Joe Resinello, I guess if you identify as a cat, you have the veterinarian has to give you medical care, even though you don't have the anatomy of a cat. The veterinarian is going to have to do that. So, as my Italian mother would say, this is the world that we live in. Okay, but let's go to Danielle Smith because very interesting developments on the climate change front up in Canada. So we want to play a little clip of Danielle Smith.
Responsible when it comes to approving applications. Renewables have a place in our energy mix, but the fact remains that they are intermittent and unreliable. They are not the silver bullet for Alberta's electricity needs, and they are not the silver bullet of electricity affordability, because each new development risks driving up the transmission costs and makes Alberta's utility bills even more expensive. So we've been doing the work to ensure that we have clear rules for the regulator, investors, municipalities, and Alberta landowners. And having clear rules means that everyone knows we will prioritize our agricultural lands. That means the AUC will take an agriculture-first approach when evaluating the best use of agricultural lands proposed for renewable development. Alberta will no longer permit renewable generation development on Class 1 and Class 2 lands unless the proponent can demonstrate the ability for both crops and or livestock to coexist with the renewable generation project. Our government.
Now, Joe, I'm going to throw it over to you to break it down. She's making a whole lot of sense, it seems to me. She doesn't sound like some sort of right-wing ideologue, but what she's basically saying is, we're going to prioritize food production. Now, we know Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and that troll Yuval Harari, they want us to all get used to eating bugs because they're going to try to convince us all that bugs are high in protein. Ergo, it's good for you while they get their protein from a nice big fat ribeye. So we know that. But I mean, I was encouraged. There's more to talk about, but I'd like for you to break it down, Joe, a little bit.
I like Danielle Smith. My opinion, I think she should be the Prime Minister of Canada. I like her even more than Pierre Poilievre. I don't dislike Pierre Poilievre, but I think she is purely for the people. I think Poilievre is more of a politician. But isn't that what politics is about? Aren't your politicians supposed to be for people? You see, this is what people need to see. The same thing is going on in America. Our politicians represent globalist ideologies. They also represent an establishment. Nothing gets done. All they do is deflect, they gaslight, and they gin up their bases to fight against each other, and they don't serve people. You see, Danielle Smith, in what she's doing right now, is actually helping people. But that's what a public servant is. You're supposed to be for people.
No, juxtapose that with Justin Trudeau. I mean, I don't care who you are. Nobody is going to convince me, and we've said this before, okay, that Justin Trudeau is for the people. There was a guy, we said it before, I'll say it again because it's worth repeating, a citizen. Again, Justin Trudeau is supposed to be leading the people of Canada. So he's supposed to respect the citizens. And the citizen was asking about high gas prices and high milk prices. He started berating the guy and yelling at him, saying, if you think you're suffering, what about the people in Ukraine? That was his best response. So, like you mentioned, public servant Trudeau. You juxtapose Danielle Smith, who's trying to be a public servant. We're going to get into more of these ideas that she has. Okay, she seems to me to be a public servant. She doesn't seem to be an ideologue. Justin Trudeau does not seem to be a public servant, and he is an ideologue, Joe Rossinello.
But that's what people have to see. You see, unfortunately, if you ask me, whatever you call yourself a liberal, you call yourself a conservative, the people, the institutions in Canada are run by secular humanists who are also globalists who worship the climate. It is a cult and they absolutely worship it. It is their religion. It comes before you. It's the same in America.
Right.
And this is what people have to see. They have to see that these people, both parties, they don't represent you. They simply don't. They don't. I'll use, like, just to draw the analogy. In America, immigration. Both parties are never going to solve the immigration problem because they both benefit from it.
Right.
They both benefit from it. The Republicans get cheap labor and the Democrats get political power through votes. They don't want, and they both gin up their base. Meanwhile, it's a distraction. And it's like a magician. The magician has this hand, he's distracting you. In the back pocket, he's taking your wallet out of your back pocket with his other hand. That's what these people are doing. You see, Danielle Smith is different on this position.
Well, let me take it even further. You remember this is back when Teddy Kennedy was alive. They wanted to put windmills in Massachusetts, by Cape Cod, where the Kennedys have their compound. Okay?
Oh yeah,
and they said no. All the liberals said no. Teddy Kennedy said no because we don't want to. It's such a beautiful place. Oh, so you want to put windmills next to me? Let's say, for argument's sake, if I live somewhere in the Midwest, but you don't want to put windmills in Cape Cod. Well, here's the thing. And it shows their hypocrisy. So one of the things that Danielle Smith is proposing is that there's a ban on new wind projects within 35 kilometers of what is deemed a pristine viewscape, and that's chosen by the province. Now, Joe, listen, America is a beautiful country. When you talk about the beauty of the land, so is Canada. Canada is breathtakingly beautiful. I mean, from Niagara Falls all the way out, to the west. There's a lot of pristine viewscapes. And you want to know what? I'm happy she said that. If you're within 35 kilometers of that, no windmills. And it's great. It's great because Justin Trudeau doesn't want those windmills in his backyard, but he wants them in Alberta's backyard.
Well, that goes to what you were saying about that one individual that basically said, I can't afford gas. Justin Trudeau can. You see, that's again what people have to figure out. These people can afford to worship the climate and put forth these policies. It's not going to affect them. It's going to affect you. Call yourself a liberal. Vote for Justin Trudeau. You're going to starve too.
Right.
You see, this is what people have to get through their head. The arguments, it is not about the differences. Yes, there are differences. I get it. But they're not going to be resolved by these people. Justin Trudeau's job is to do one thing: deflect, gaslight, project, and push forth an agenda. We are in a post-democratic era run by ESG, which is partnerships with corporations. A lot of the messaging is coming out of the global forum, the World Economic Forum.
World Economic Forum, yeah.
And this is how they're moving. It's not about the people anymore. It simply isn't. And
well, we've said that a million times. I gave the example of Justin Trudeau. You could give examples of Joe Biden. The governments of the world. And Joe, I don't care if you see what's going on in Spain and France with the farmers.
Oh my gosh, they're throwing manure on the what's it called? The office buildings. I love it.
They got the manure sprayer going on there.
I want one of those, Joe.
I want one of those too. Drive in front of the White House and spray a little doo-doo over there. But in Spain, they're blocking the roads. They're blocking the roads that leads from France, one of the roads that leads from France to Spain. The governments of the world, Joe, we saw it with Brexit. We're seeing it in America with Joe
They're
Biden.
at war with their people.
They're at war with their people. What they're saying is, we don't care what you think. But here's my problem. But then these are the same people that talk about Donald Trump undermines and is a threat to democracy.
That's a conversation for another day. But that's what people need to see. You hit it right on the head. No matter what you classify, they're at war with you. They are.
Right.
And I'm going to be honest with you. Look in your refrigerator. This Canadian carbon tax model, 2 of them have destroyed regular people. He doesn't care. Justin Trudeau's worth like $80 million.
Right.
He's fine. You're not. You see, again, Danielle Smith says this. She wants a parallel process. That's very rational. And I'll be honest with you.
Well, explain that, Joe. Explain the parallel.
He's basically saying we're going to have a green energy model with oil and gas operating at the same time.
Well, the way I like that she said that, and I'm glad you brought that up, was that to ensure gas can meet demands at all times, because this other nonsense might go down, might black out, okay? And guess what? You're going to need the gas to in a case of an emergency, okay? So I'm glad she said that. No, we're using gas too. Too bad.
But you know something? That's rational. Develop the other model. When it's completely up and running, when it's not going to cripple regular people, use it. I'm not opposed to progress. I'm not. But I'm always for people. You can't bulldoze people. And that's what they're doing. They're doing it in America. They're doing it in the Netherlands. They're doing it in France. They're doing it in Australia. They're doing it in Canada.
In the Netherlands, what's his name? I think just Gert. I forgot it. I think it's the Netherlands. Conservative, right wing. Okay. I apologize to all of those out there who are watching the front line with Joe and Joe. I forgot his name, Gert Wilders, something like that.
He's got some good hair. He's got a hair game from what I remember.
You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Well, no, the thing is, but this is the point. Now, but it all leads me to believe that when you go against regular people, okay, and you're still getting elected to office, I'm sorry, Joe Resinello, I just feel like there's something shady going on. Thank you. Jerusalem Jim said Wilders. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And just real quick, Dave Hayward, I'm sorry, Dave, we're not going to post your comment, but Joe and I certainly agree with it. Gert Wilders, Jerusalem Jim's with us. We have Political Foolishness, Nanette. Hello, Nanette. And we have about, I don't know, somewhere around 34, 35 watching, but that usually grows as the show moves on. Joe, let's put a finer point on Danielle Smith. Well, first of all, let me ask you this. She's not going to be running for prime minister, am I right?
No, not that I'm aware of. I think Poilievre will get it, to be truthful.
But Poilievre will support policies that Danielle Smith is going to support.
Yeah, I would say so. He's more of a politician, though. I'm like anti-politician. I like I said, I like her. I think she comes across as like a person of the people. We need people like that.
Let me put it like this to you. I mean, we know that Canada has tremendous agriculture. There's a big tourism trade in Canada. If you look at, let's say, for argument's sake, Niagara Falls and other places, like I said, it's breathtakingly beautiful in many parts of Canada. She said we need to ensure we're not sacrificing any of these. And you want to know why, Joe? Because all those things, agricultural yields, tourism, the landscape, that all benefits regular people. Joe,
and that's what it's all about.
I'm going to give you the final word on Danielle Smith.
It's all about people. Couple takeaways from this. I want everybody who's listening to us to listen to the president of El Salvador, who just spoke at CPAC. He talks about globalism. He also gives a warning to the United States, talks about our debt. He's talking about the problems which we're facing with regard to cultural communism. All of those things are not pro-people. Any politician that embraces any aspect of globalism, I'm not talking about living in an isolated country like North Korea. You got to trade with people. I'm all for that. However, if you embrace globalist ideologies, you have to reject that politician, whether it's in your party or not. Like, if I'll use an example, for the last few years, I have voted for Republicans. I wouldn't vote for Nikki Haley. I wouldn't
Never.
vote for her. Because she embraces globalism.
Yeah.
Globalism is anti-middle class. Globalism is anti-regular people. You see it in Canada with the carbon taxes. It has nothing to do with helping you, and the elites can afford it and you can't. So that is, if you ask me, a takeaway. Second takeaway, Danielle is a public servant in this message. She's serving people, not ideology. Ideology comes second. People come first.
Well, remember, when you're a person, just a regular person, let's talk and keep it in America. I'm not sure what Justin Trudeau does up there, the name calling. We're all, I guess we're Christian nationalists, but I like to tell them, I would go, and we're going to show this other guy from MSNBC in about a minute. We're going to play that clip. I would go right up to them and I say, you want to know what? I am. I think America should be, or should act like a Christian nation. Yes, I do. I think we'd be vastly better off. See, but what they want to do is they want to equate Christian nationalism with
terrorism.
Race. What's that?
With terrorism.
Well,
Basically,
also with terrorism, but also they want to equate it with race.
I don't know how that is. That's just complete ridiculous.
Well, if you ask a lot of African Americans, many more of whom are now supporting Donald Trump, okay, what are you going to do? You're going to call those people Christian nationalists? In other words, because a lot of them, I think like Joe and I do. Okay, they embrace Christian values. They embrace gospel values. They think we should have some guardrails in America. That no, you can't do whatever you want. You can't identify as a cat. And we'll talk about that in not the next segment, but the one after. You can't identify as a cat and think that you're going to get any sort of special rights. Just things like that. Can't kill babies. I think that one comes to mind. You can't chop off a 15-year-old girl's breasts, okay, because she says she feels like a male of the species. So yeah, you want to know what? I would tell them all. I'd debate any one of them. I'd say, yeah, what's wrong with Christian nationalism? That doesn't apply to race. That applies to worldview. All right, that applies to worldview. Anyway, so Leo the Lion's here. Leo the Lion, truth seeker. What's up, Leo? So listen, I mentioned MSNBC. All right. So I hope and none of you out there listening to the front line with Joe and Joy, I hope you didn't eat recently. Okay, because I'm going to play this clip, and you got to listen to this guy. And I stopped calling people names. I think if you noticed out there, I don't call people moron anymore. I don't call them a son of a bitch anymore. Joe Resinello straightened me out on that. He asked me, it might not be a good idea for a couple of Catholic guys to be, calling people names. So I won't call Ellie Mistel anything other than this guy. I want you to listen to this guy, and we'll come back and we'll break this down because he is what I would call nauseating.
The appeals court gives a bulletproof ruling, as Dahlia says, and they still decide to take it up.
What it says is that they are corrupted political actors who act in bad faith. The reason why people like Mark and people like Dahlia seem to have a crystal ball is because they're real, because they're realists, and they understand the court for what it is. And at some point, people in the media, people at home, and people sitting in the White House have to stop pretending that the Supreme Court is some kind of benign, trying to do its best institution and start to realize that there are 6 Republicans, not conservatives, Republicans on the Supreme Court who view it as their job to help the Republican Party. And until we do something about that, until we take away that power, until we draw the line on them there, they will continue to do this. They will help Trump. They will take away abortion rights. They will end affirmative action. They will liberalize gun rights. They will do all of it until we stop them. And somebody needs to start listening in the higher echelons of the Democratic Party, because we will keep losing every day we allow.
Yeah, thank God they'll keep losing every day. Let's break this down for a second, Joe. I'm gonna set this up and then I'm gonna throw it over to you. Number one, okay, abortion rights. Well, he says they're going to take away. They haven't taken away abortion rights. They turned it over to the states, which Joe and I think they don't go far enough. Yes, they ruled against New York when New York had that onerous burden on your Second Amendment rights and said, no. You don't have to go through this big waiting period, or we can't ban you from concealing and carrying. Okay, and the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Second Amendment, and other things. So look, what this guy is pissed off about I'd like to give Mr. Mistal, sounds like a champagne, only not as nice, Mistal, a little history lesson. The Supreme Court became politicians going back to the 1950s when they decided that they were going to tell the states that prayer wasn't allowed in public schools. That they were going to tell the states that they couldn't restrict or ban contraception. When they were going to tell the states that states couldn't restrict or ban abortion. Later on, when they told the states that you can't ban gay marriage, you have to recognize it. When they and on and on and on. They've been political for longer than we've been alive. As soon as you have a Supreme Court, Joe Rosanello, that actually they actually read and value the Constitution, not the liberal ACLU version of the Constitution, but the actual words and the text of the Constitution, then guys like that, what they turn around and do is say, well, they're just politicians and we need to stop them. Let me tell you something, Elie Mistal, and I'm going to throw this over to you, Joe. It's a loser. Joe Biden knew it was a loser. Not that he's running anything. Barack Obama really is. Barack Obama knows that if you try to stack the court, that is a political loser. You can't do anything, Mr. Mistal. You lost, and you're going to continue to lose until the Supreme Court swings the other way. As my 84-year-old Italian mother would say, it's too bad. Go, Joe.
I love his hair. That's the first point.
His hair is
I absolutely love the hair. So that has to be the first point. Second point, he doesn't believe in this country because notice his words. They have to be stopped. We have to tell the people.
By who, Joe?
By the Stasi. That's who. They have to be stopped by the totalitarian state. The people up top. No, it's not a country of the people up top. It's the country of the people down below. You see, he doesn't understand, nor does he believe in this country. Yeah. This is purely about power. This has nothing to do with what's right. It has nothing to do with how the country is set up, meaning that these justices were put there lawfully. And yes, they view the Constitution differently than you do, sir. But that does not make them anti-democracy.
No.
The way you were talking, you're talking like someone who doesn't believe in democracy. They have to be stopped. The people in the upper echelons of power. That's not a democracy, sir.
No, it's
and that's why I'm going to be honest with you. This type of reporting is nothing more than propaganda, and it's poison because it's anti-American. And I've had it with that. We have to take back the institutions, and this is going to be a problem because I got news for you. For decades, this type of individual, because that's exactly what's being taught in the best colleges across the Western world. And they come out and they all believe exactly what he's saying, and that's why he's sitting there, because he's doing nothing more than pitching to a demographic, and MSNBC are selling commercials. People want to hear that, and that's exactly why he's there. We have to take back the press. How do you do that? Well, you need a free press in a democracy. I would never, ever, ever restrict his ability to speak, but I'm going to tell you how you take back the press. You have to lower the standards for libel and slander, particularly look at the case Sullivan versus the New York Times. And what does that mean? What that means is this. If they say something, they slander you, they call you a racist, they call you an Uncle Tom, they call you a hater, they call you a terrorist, and it's not true. You sue them and you take their money like Nick Salmon's parents did. And that will police the press. Because after a few $200 million lawsuits, MSNBC's general counsel will go to the CEO and say, shut Mistel down and tell him to get a haircut.
Right. Tell him to get a haircut.
He's not coming back on.
Well, I know, and they got to do it to all of them. They got to drop the hammer on Joy Reid. They got to drop the hammer on Rachel Maddow. Joy Reid is the biggest racist in this country. No, but, I tell her right to her face.
100%. But she, again, is playing to the demographic. She, for all intents and purposes, she may not even believe the nonsense that she says. She should just be cutting a paycheck, Joe. In all honesty, because she's getting a big one. It's the same thing with the nonsense that goes on at Fox. Who knows what those people actually believe? What I do know is they get paid a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So again, it's nothing but theater to gin up the base. I don't watch any of it. But ultimately, if you don't believe in this nation, that type, especially if you slander people or you write things that aren't true, there is no more shame. Pay the price. That's how you control the press. But secondly, I'm going to tell you another thing that America has to do. Canada has to do it, and all across Europe, they have to do it too. You have to take back the colleges. How do you do that in America? One, you don't give any federal funds to schools that propagate anti-American nonsense. For instance, Harvard and Penn recently could not come out against anti-Semitism. You're cut off. If you can't say that because your people aren't going to like that message, well, guess what? Your people are out. That's not the message that is frankly acceptable, and you're cut out. But I'm going to take it another step further. Not only am I not going to give you money, I'm not going to allow your student body to get federal loans at your school because no one pays. Well, some people do. It's a very small percentage of the population in America pay out of pocket to go to school. So if your college is spewing nonsense, I will not allow your students to get federal loans, which means I shut you down. I don't even have to raise my voice. You see, that's how you police things. I learned that in corporate America. Corporate America, they're assassins. They have it down perfectly, and it's lawyered perfectly, precision. I don't have to yell. You just set the stage, and that's how you squash them. Because ultimately, they're the folks that are shaping the minds, like that young man. Who knows how he was before he went into college? Well, we know how he is now, completely brainwashed. He doesn't believe in this country, and that is nothing more than power. He wants power. And guess who he's going to take it from? Regular people. Regular people. He does not even represent the average African American. He's an elitist.
Right.
You think he's hanging out in Camden or Patterson get the
Newark
out of here. He's on
hanging
the
out
Upper
in
East
Newark.
Side. Like, this is what people have to get through their head. These people don't represent you, and they don't care about you. And frankly, behind closed doors, they probably laugh at you.
Well, first of all, they laugh at all of us until we actually do something like, heaven forfend, vote for Donald Trump and actually elect him in 2020, or excuse me, in 2016. So they laugh when they get up to that point, and then they start to get angry. And they're angry because, as you said, as an elitist, they say, how dare you vote for him? Why would you vote for him? Well, I want those judges, Mr. Mistal, that you seem to hate so much. You see, you want your judge. You think Ruth Bader Ginsburg was it political? You think Sotomayor, is it political? You think Elena Kagan, is it political? You think Breyer, is it political? They're all political. What are you talking about? I said I wasn't going to call anybody names. But what are you talking about when you try to pretend that Ruth Bader Ginsburg wasn't political? She was the most political ideologue there was. She'll support abortion. She'll kill babies after they were born. She doesn't care. She didn't care when she was alive. Neither does Sotomayor or the rest of them. So what do you mean? And listen, and when you want to talk about extremists, the left on abortion alone, okay, has on the Supreme Court has made it where you cannot restrict abortion at all. At all, Joe Resino. That was what Roe versus Wade said. And they held the line on that for over 50 years. Where's the extremism on the part of Coney Barrett and Thomas Alito, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh? They didn't ban abortion. We want them to. You and I want them to. Many who listen to us want them to. But what they did was, I think if you want to talk just to answer this guy's diatribe, they just sent it back to the states. They actually told the people, you could rule on this. You could do what you want in your individual states when it comes to abortion. Now, again, I don't agree with that. But it shows that this guy doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about. And it's like you said. First of all, people are on to this nonsense. When it comes to stacking the Supreme Court, people are not having it. People don't want it. They floated that trial balloon, Joe Resinello, in 2020. Okay, when Biden supposedly got elected, and guess what? It went over like a lead balloon because people do not want the Supreme Court stacked. You win elections. That's how you get the Supreme Court. We won in 2016. That's how we got the Supreme Court. And that's right. I want conservative rulings. I want conservative decisions. That's the bottom line. And they can't
I don't
stand
even
it.
want to couch it as conservative. I just want people to believe in the Constitution. I just want people to believe in the natural law, which all law comes from. That's how I couch it. If you don't believe in the Constitution, you don't believe in this country, and you are not here, particularly someone on the court, to change the country. That belongs to the Congress. They make the laws. You don't. You don't legislate from the bench. We have too much of that going on. Too many activist judges. Horrible. Particularly what's going on with Donald Trump. They're trying to take his money now. It's just one ridiculous. That's what happens in like Panama.
Well, here's the thing. Just along the lines of what you said, this guy Elie Mystal, what that diatribe was, because the Supreme Court agreed to hear Trump's case. They agreed to hear his appeal. They haven't even ruled, and this guy's blowing a gasket. Do you know what I mean?
No,
they haven't even ruled on anything.
Listen, I'll be truthful with you. I am fed up with people who don't believe in this nation. I simply I'm fed up. If you don't believe in the nation, and there's a lot of people that don't, Joe, they don't believe in America. And ultimately, I got news for you. Then you should leave. I believe in the country. I sincerely do. It's a Judeo-Christian country. You mentioned Christianity. Every single preamble in all 50 states, the first sentence of that preamble mentions God.
Right.
It's a Judeo-Christian nation, which means our laws stem from the natural law. If you don't embrace that, you don't believe in America. Now, here's the deal. I have no problem with you not embracing it. I'll let you live here, but you're not going to change America. And sadly, they have, because our people have changed. Our country doesn't work anymore because, just like what John Adams said, a democracy is made for a religious and moral people, and we are not a religious and moral people.
No, what we are right now, Joe Resinello, and if you're joining us here at the front line with Joe and Joe, please share this video. Share. There's however many people watching. Share the video. Share it wherever you're seeing it. Rumble, X, Facebook, YouTube. So, Joe, not only are we not a moral people, Joe, we are, to a large degree, an insane people. So I'm going to roll the clip.
Does identify as a cat, but I cannot take him to a vet because I tried that, and the veterinarian told me that because he has human anatomy, that he does not know how to work on him or diagnose him with anything, and he legally cannot. So, and while I do think that is a form of discrimination, because, you know, my son, if he says he's a cat, he is a cat, and he needs to be treated like that, like one, you know. But I'm not going to press charges because I know that he could lose his license if he did work on my son. So I'm not gonna try to sue him or anything. So don't worry. But this is something that I want to raise awareness on, because I do think that people that identify as an animal should be able to go to the vet. You know, that's the medical attention that they're wanting. And so I really do appreciate you asking this question. I think it's an important topic that we discuss, because if we don't, we're never going to make progress, and these people that identify as cats are going to have to continue going to human doctors, and I just don't.
Joe, it's an idiotic topic. Like this is the see a guy like Elie Mystal. You can sit across from a table from him. without shouting. He'd be the one that shouts because he'd lose every argument. Especially even guys like us. I don't have his degrees. I bet you he went to the Ivy League or some prestigious university. We'd crush him because he doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know history. He's also a liar, by the way. But he understands political reality. He understands political spin. He understands propaganda because that's what he does. This woman's insane.
I'll agree. I agree.
My
Sick.
son identifies as a cat, and I'm not going to sue the veterinarian that didn't want to give him treatment. The veterinarian should sue you, young lady, if I could call you lady. I don't know. Do you identify as a cheetah? Like, I don't know. But like the veterinarian should say, you're bringing your son into my office because he thinks he's a cat. What do you think I could do for him? I operate on dogs and real cats and other such animals. No, I'm not touching your son, you wacko. Go home. Help me, Joe. Help me.
How is that person going to pick the right person for president, be the president? How, when you have a nation, not everyone's like that, but you can listen to people that embrace cuckoo bird ideas. Like, for instance, every person, whether you want to face this reality or not, that votes for Joe Biden is voting for DAs in big cities that don't prosecute crime.
Right.
That is anti-American. That is anti-society. That is hurting people and businesses. It's hurting our economy. How could you support that? If you ask me, just on that issue alone, something's wrong. Right. Now, let's juxtapose to this person. She's just sick, but she's not alone. In California, there are 57 genders on a college application.
Do they list them all? Do they actually list them all?
I don't think they do. But I heard that somewhere down the line. And by the way, that went back all the way to Clinton when what was her name? She was his AG. I can't, if you said she went to California. Bingo. She had that going well before this madness.
Oh, I gotta say, I know you're gonna get mad at me. One of the least attractive human beings I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Right. But all I'm saying is this. We can't get basic things right, Joe.
No,
we're mutilating kids. We're mutilating children. We've allowed the culture to bully science. And we're going to pick the right president. You see, this is why this is not going to get solved politically. We have a sick population. How much? Look at the mental illness numbers in America right now.
I know at least one, the woman we just played.
Off the charts.
She's mentally ill.
Oh
and
my gosh.
She represents, like you said, Joe Resinello, she represents a rather large swath of the American people. Now, I'm not going to do what they do. I am not going to attack those people other than to say they're wrong. Like, there was this woman is unhinged from reality. I don't hate her. Okay, I don't wish her any ill will. Not the way Elie Mystal wishes guys like us and the people that listen to us at the front line, Joe and Joe. They wish us ill will. They wish us to be harmed in some way, shape, or form. But when you watch something like that, you just have to shake your head and say, "Look, sweetheart." And I know that would probably get me arrested for calling her sweetheart. Sweetheart, your son's not a cat. And even if you think he is, you're not going to force the veterinarian to what? Fuse a tail onto his ass? Is that what you want?
Joe, it's crazy. All of it, and you will get people, serious people, like in corporate America, a 65-year-old guy putting him next to his name. Really? You have to tell me that?
Right.
And here's another thing. You actually think that I believe you believe that? You're as phony as it gets.
Right.
You're not some 23-year-old. You all that is virtue signaling, going along to get along. It's repulsive. And I'll be honest with you. This is so damaging to our nation, and this generation of kids is going to be so lost, Joe. So my generation was lost in many respects. This generation, holy crap. in 30 years, I don't want to see it. It's going to be so ugly if I'm alive.
Well, remember something though. My son, your children, they're going to be a part of that next generation. And there is hope there. There's Joe. Listen, these people at the end of the day are a minority. Okay. They are a significant minority. The problem is that you have elites, again, going back to what you were talking about with Elie Mystal and MSNBC. You have elites that use this rather small group of people for political power, to be able to change laws, to be able to get what they really want, and why they use these people, which is hate speech legislation. Because hate speech, Joe Resinello, is really the linchpin of this whole thing. See, if I say that her son is not a cat, she wants to be able to say that I've committed a hate crime against her and I need to go to jail. What that does is that squashes dissent. What did we say earlier about Trudeau and Danielle Smith, the regular people who dissent when it comes to insanity that's around them? They're being used to pass hate speech legislation, to have it codified in federal law, even more so than it already is, to say that you can't say certain things, Joe, that you can't believe certain things, Joe. And if you do, listen, this isn't conspiracy theory.
It's happening in Europe. Europe is already.
A woman in England got arrested for praying silently in her head
Across the street.
Across
From
the
an
street
abortion clinic.
And the cop said, "What are you doing? Are you praying in your head?" And she was an honest woman. And she said, yeah. She says, "Well, you're under arrest." This is the world we live in. And God help these people, Joe, that have squandered their particularly England. I read Joseph Pierce's book, A History of True England. England was a Catholic country from the time of its founding right up until Henry VIII decided that he wanted to steal all the church property. Okay, England was a Catholic country, and after the split, after the Anglican split, it's been downhill in England ever since, and it's the same thing with the rest of them. But that's what we have, and that's where this woman with the son who's a cat comes in, because she wants to be able, along with the transgenders and everybody else, like they did with Mike Knowles, when Mike Knowles says transgenderism needs to be eradicated, and they all came out and said, "You want to eradicate transgenders?" No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. He said your stupid ideology is what needs to be eradicated from our political discourse, from our cultural discussions, okay? But it's not going to be, because there's political power to be had there, Joe.
Well, you nailed it right on the head. It's about power. And by the way, it's not going to be had by that woman. They're nothing but useful idiots. That's exactly what that is. The people are wielding power. And again, the people who, if you ask me, have to exercise power is at the college level, and we have to basically lower the standards of libel and slander at the press level, because they're shaping the minds of people.
Mm-hmm.
People like MSNBC, people like Fox. All they're doing is molding people, that people just spew frigging talking points. They can't think for themselves. They have no grasp of reality, like that woman, no grasp of common sense. And you cannot build a society on these ideas. And if you don't believe me, look, I say it all the time. Look around. How are things working out? How are families doing? How are kids doing? Suicide is up. Mental illness is up. Why do you think kids are killing people in schools? Oh, it's about guns. We've always had guns in this country. And I'm not an NRA guy, and I don't have a gun. But I'm going to tell you this. It's because people are mentally ill. They're wounded. The divorce rate is off the charts. 40% of our children are born outside of wedlock. Oh, what does that mean? You need a mom and a dad to raise kids. That produces the healthiest type of kid. Don't tell me differently. You don't even need a college education to know that. Our society is crumbling.
Right.
And then you have that. People latching on to anything. The tribe. That's part of the reason why people are voting for Joe Biden.
Yeah, I wonder what friggin' tribe that woman belongs to. The
Because
tribe of
people
the
don't have anything.
insane?
Joe, they're unmoored. If you're moored, to things that have a solid foundation, like God and your family.
Joe, how about reality?
But you won't. You could people. She's talking about progress. Progress. Your kid is a cat. No, that's not progress. She's unmoored.
Right.
And she's holding on to things. That's what all this is about. People who are moored in solid realities, they don't prescribe to this at all. At all. Our society has gone off the rails. And that's why I'll be honest with you. We have to take our institutions back, but it begins with molding the minds. And I got news for you, Joe. There's so many Looney Tunes out there like that have embraced madness. You talked about abortion. Okay. You want to tell me a woman has a right to choose? We're going to agree to disagree. You're going to tell me a woman could kill their kid in the third trimester? By the way, that's what you're voting for.
Right.
We are in such an ugly group of countries that allow that. Even Europe. Europe, by the way, only allows abortion within 12 weeks. It's illegal after that. That's all over Europe.
Right.
We are barbarians. It's disgusting. And that should disqualify a person in a healthy and sane society. If someone looked me in the face and said a woman could kill her kid in the 8th month of pregnancy, I'd be like, you're disqualified. Oh, there are 3 genders. Joe Biden says that on CNN, national television. You're disqualified.
You're
Science says differently. We're not going to prosecute crime in big cities, and businesses are leaving in droves. They can't even get supermarkets in Chicago.
Right.
You're disqualified.
You're disqualified.
And this is a person who's voting. We're a sick society. And we have to get back to basics.
Yeah.
And until then, Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't expect change. I don't expect change.
Let me say this in closing, Joe Resinello. And if anybody's out there, you're watching this on Rumble, on X, on YouTube, Facebook, please like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. Virginia's with us. Rick's with us. Tony's with us. Joseph, Leo, the Lion, Rhea. Queen Boudica didn't like us, Joe. She said unsubbed. We're unsubbed. Right. But that's okay. Dave was with us earlier, and a few other people, Natalie, Jerusalem, Jim. So we had a pretty good crowd tonight. Joe, at the end of the day, they know what they know their weakness. Their weakness is that they can't have a wide dissemination of their ideas because they don't have any ideas. Because like that woman who thinks or is saying that her son's a cat, their ideas are not rooted in reality. They're quite frankly insane. So that's why they get apoplectic when somebody like Elon Musk says, you know what, I think I'm going to take $45 billion. I think I'm going to buy Twitter. I like it. I think, but it's they put the kibosh on free speech. I want to open it up. That's why they hate the guy. For no other reason. They hate the guy. Why shouldn't they love him? He makes electric cars. I thought he's environmentally friendly because he dares to give guys like us a platform that we can go on and really say anything we want. We have not been censored once on Twitter X since we've been trying to post on there. And the bottom line is we're not going to be. They need to control the narrative, and they get people like Ellie Mistal and Joy Reid and Don Lemon and all these people to peddle the narrative, just like they did when it came to the election, just like they did when it came to COVID and the lockdowns, just like they did when it came to the vaccine. They can't afford to have their ideas known, because if their ideas are known and what they propose is actually known, and people say, wait a minute, I disagree with you on this. And here's the science that I'm going to say, I'm going to provide for you to back up my argument and why I disagree. They want you shut down. So you said mold people's minds. I don't want to mold people's minds as much as I want to raise their consciousness as to what's going on. That we put money in their pockets. Okay. Listen, if you're a Christian and you don't like Jesus being portrayed as a homosexual, then why aren't you canceling Netflix? Or if HBO puts offensive material out that you don't want to show that your family and your children, why are you still subscribing to HBO? And a whole host of things. We put money in their pockets. That's what we do. There's a lot of people out there, and like you said, Joe, Fox News is no savior. They're no savior. Okay, they went in the tank. Soon as the people, Joe, that Fox News always pretended to be on the side of, soon as the people rose up and voted for a guy who was outside the mainstream like Donald Trump, Fox News turned on him right away. They didn't turn on him, Joe. They turned on you. They turned on me. That's what they did. I don't even watch Fox. I don't watch Fox at all anymore. So anyway, the bottom line is this. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to encourage people to go out there and get your social media from reliable sources. Rumble has a lot of great people on there. X has a lot of great people on there. Tucker Carlson's not on X for no reason, okay? He's on there because he knows he could say the things he couldn't say on Fox News. And when you see somebody who you don't have to, I'm not saying this about Joe and I. If you see somebody you know is bold and is speaking the truth and is getting the truth out there, then share their videos. It takes 1 second. Like, subscribe, do all that stuff, because that helps us to get out there more and more. Not just Joe and I, but all of us get out there more and more. And we can fight them. One final word, Joe, I'm going to say. Donald Trump was absolutely right when he called the press the enemy of the American people.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And ultimately, to your point, Joe, they are controlling you through the press. They don't tell you what you need to know. They tell you what you basically have to know to keep them in power, because it's all about power. And as Joe said, it's not about you. It's not about you. Call yourself a Republican, call yourself a Democrat, call yourself a conservative, vote for whoever you want. Our governments are at war with our people. That's why they put a fence around the Congress. That is a sign that should tell you something. These are the people who represent you, or supposed to, and they don't.
No, they don't. Great place to leave it, Joe Rossinello. Great conversation as always. Remember, like I said, like, subscribe, share, do all that fun stuff. And remember, until the next time, that our conversation is your conversation, and that conversation is going on everywhere. We'll talk to you next.